What up, everybody? It's a new episode. It's a new year. It's a new decade.
Oh God.
Oh boy, it is 2020. And it's your boy Chris, aka SSJ Blackerot. And listen, this year, I want to get some feedback. I want some more AKAs, but I want you guys to send them in. Something new, something different for the
That
beginning
could
of
be,
the year.
that could be
Uh,
dangerous.
hey, if it's good, I'll say it. If it's bad, I might still say it. Who knows? If it's just, let's just run with it. This is. I'm excited because, we just came off of a really good Game of the Year episode. So shout out to that episode. Shout out to the people who've listened, who've tuned in, who've talked about it, like, I love it when you guys share the content. It touches me
Yeah.
in places that are good, places that are bad, places all over the place. It's a great feeling at the end of the day. But um we're here. We're ready to try out different things, new formats. But this episode's gonna be a little different. But I'm so excited. I already messed up. It's already the first episode of the year, and I'm already messing up. You hear him in the background. My co-host Rod. How you doing? What's going on, man?
Man, new year, new podcast.
Oh,
I tried to make it cool, but I guess it's not. Can't be technically a new podcast. We're still the same old podcast, but with new trimmings, maybe, hopefully.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure you guys are noticing that we're sounding a little bit more crisper. We're trying out different new things, and let us know what you think.
Yeah, yeah. Seriously, we are trying to improve the audio front on here. It's been pretty okay before. It's been pretty decent, but we can
Mhm.
always do better. We're always striving to do better. So yeah.
Yes. And we're also trying out, if you haven't noticed, well, if you are, this year I told myself that I want to make sure that we're on as many platforms as possible.
Hmm.
So if you're on this particular platform, you've noticed that you're seeing some different things. You're seeing me right now. We're gonna try out some video content, and this is just a step forward. This is just a trial, just to see how it works, see if we could try out different things. But let's see how this turns out. Let's see how this works out in post. Let's see how I'm able to edit this so that it makes sense.
Hmm.
But I'm excited to see how this turns out this year. So there's a lot of things to look forward to in 2020. Um, the gaming industry is forever evolving, and you really can't you really can't predict these things. You really can't. But we sort
Yeah.
of want to highlight what we feel that we're really looking forward to, and that's just in general for the industry, whether that be games. We have consoles on
Yeah.
the way.
Full consoles just dropping.
Yeah.
So, I feel like we should maybe start with are there any titles that are releasing for this generation that we know that we're looking forward to? Because I mean, I think the obvious ones are like Ghost of Tsushima, and Last of Us 2 are
Oh yeah.
yeah, I mean, definitely a pair of titles that, at this point they're going to be around the same time. So Ghost is going to be in summer. Right now, Last of Us is like late May, and I would assume that Ghost isn't coming until like July or August. I don't think that they release that in June.
See, here's the thing. I'm predicting that it gets pushed back again, and we see like a simultaneous, either like simultaneous or really close. But I see that this, Ghost of Tsushima being a launch title for PlayStation 5.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
So,
I wouldn't even be shocked if Last of Us 2 is just as a launch as well.
what do you think? Do you think they're going to say Last of Us 2 remastered or just Last of Us 2?
Probably just a port.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, like
fair
I
enough.
think it might have like the remaster like title on it, kind of like the first one did. But they won't have to do a lot of work on it. I would predict. It's not they're not gonna change the fundamentals of that game. Like it'll probably be 4K capable, like just on the whatever model the PS4 is out on or PS5 is out on. But Yeah, that's what I feel like. I mean, those games, anything coming out, I think next year that's going to be major is definitely going to get a PS5 version. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to those games, man. I mean, I love Sucker Punch, and I mean, Last of Us. I don't even know if that almost needs no introduction at all.
It
Like,
doesn't. Like Last of Us is like it's for a lot of people, it's that franchise that I feel like if you have like a significant other or someone else that like just they're not really into games but they're watching you play, like this is the type of game where they'll sit back and like enjoy it. Like they will like be sucked in, they'll be enthralled. Like they shoot at some point they might even want to pick up the controller.
yeah, that's how it was for me. That was definitely how it was for me. A girlfriend definitely wanted to watch me play that game initially.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, it's hard to watch games sometimes because it's like, at least for someone like me, like it's hard for me to get a lot of value like when I'm watching someone play through an entire experience, like a whole game, like a let's play or something. But um, it's also like I want to get my hands on the controller, like ultimately, like that's just how I am when it comes to games. So, but this for some reason has such a cinematic quality to it that it's very easy to see how it's so easy for someone to like just watch this and enjoy it like they would a film.
Mm-hmm. So, once again, coming off of our Game of the Year episode, can we say that this is a clear contender for Game of the Year for 2020? I'd like to say so.
Yeah, they'd have to really fuck it up like pretty bad in order to not. I mean, I thought the original Last of Us was definitely a Game of the Year contender for
Yeah.
sure. Um, so yeah, there's no reason to think why it wouldn't. You know.
Yeah. How do you feel about Ghost of Tsushima? Because for me, yeah, y'all know me at this point. If you don't, you will. And I feel like this will be more or less of a game that you'll probably pick up and play. I'll watch. I'll see what people are saying about it, but
Yeah.
it's sort of not in my my ballpark. Like it looks great, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna be for me.
Yeah. It's hard to say, but I'm definitely gonna try it because again, I do like Sucker Punch. Their effort with Infamous Second Son was good, not great like I wanted it to be. Disappointing in that regard, but I think with this sort of setting, they seem like they're really paying homage to like Akira Kurosawa films and like classic kind of feudal Japan samurai type of genre. And they're even taking the extra step, I want to say, to have like an entirely like legitimately dubbed in Japanese or dubbed in English like voice cast. Like they're going to promote, I think, both as being viable options, which is really cool. But I think that this thing looks good. It looks like a more action oriented version of like Tenchu or Sekiro or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, which I think will be used maybe to its detriment is that like I just don't understand. They haven't shown us a lot of straight gameplay. Like I mean they've shown us a lot of in-engine footage, but a lot
Yeah.
of it has been cinematics and not necessarily this is what you're doing from moment to moment.
That in itself, that always like worries me
Yeah, it's like
because
more stuff.
at this point, I think we've seen gameplay from Last of Us. We've seen I mean, and I feel like at this point we should have seen like something more concrete. Like that's the issue that I had with like Death Stranding before it came out. It's
Right.
like we really don't know what we're getting.
Right.
It
Exactly.
just looks really cool.
That's the thing. Yeah, style over substance. That was kind of my thing with Infamous.
Yeah. So I mean, definitely like it's a good. I feel like this first half of the year is going to be really heavy. Of course, we can't talk about the first half of the year without talking about Cyberpunk.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Yeah, so that's I think that's slated for what, March,
Yes.
April.
Or April.
Yeah, I think April. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, this is a game that like I've heard really good things like from like people that have seen it behind closed doors. We've seen, some gameplay here and there. It's also made by, CD Projekt Red, so they love putting a lot of detail into their worlds.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that game too. Like, CD Project Red, they do not play around when it comes to world
Mm-mm.
building. They don't play around when it comes to details, like small details, and making their worlds really feel lived in. I mean, the obvious example is Witcher 3, Wild Hunt. They did such a great job of making sure that their side quests did not feel like side quests. Like, they felt like mini games on their own, and
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty impressive. And I love the aesthetic that this thing is going for. It's very committed to the I almost wanted to say cyberpunk aesthetic. I don't even think that's a thing. This sort of like neo futuristic setting they're committing fully to it. They actually just revealed at the Game Awards a few weeks ago that like modern artists are coming in and doing songs originally for it. So it actually gives me a Grand
Mm.
Theft Auto 5 vibe, where for the very first time in Grand Theft Auto 5, you had like artists from our world making songs for the game, like ASAP Rocky, Neon Indian, like a lot of these artists did stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they're doing the same thing here with Cyberpunk, which is like I didn't expect. That's a really cool touch. I mean, hopefully the music is actually good. But like I'm looking forward to seeing like how this all coalesces.
Yeah. Something that we talked about pretty heavy, and once again, if you haven't checked it out yet, check out a Game of the Year episode. But I'm a type of player that I love when my choice somewhat like dictates how the world like forms and reacts to
Yeah.
me, and I'm hoping that this is gonna be one of them. I know that with like Witcher 3, it wasn't like that too much, but they did a really good job of um like in like certain story threads, like how you sort of interacted with people, sort of like it sort of changed up what the outcome was for that particular story thread. So
Mhm.
and like just in particular, I'm thinking of Witcher 3, what was it? The thing with the Baron.
Oh yes, yes, I do know what you're talking about.
So hopefully we get more like storylines in Cyberpunk that like sort of shake you, because I feel like I was shook after playing that story bit in
Yeah,
Witcher 3.
yeah.
Um this next game, I mean, do you want to say anything else about Cyberpunk?
No, I mean, really, the only other thing I would mention is that, like, I am very curious, like, how it handles certain, like, certain controversial topics that they already sort of got in trouble for, which is like the transgender stuff, like the advertisements that they were sort of that were in the game. Like, I'm curious, like, is it going to come from a place of them being like a piece of shit and being like insensitive about it, or are they gonna like really like be meaningful to that sort of depiction. So I'm curious just on that level what they'll do.
Yeah. um I want to talk about one game just really quickly, and I'm pretty sure you're not gonna have too much to say about it, but I at least have to shout it out. It's coming out in a couple of weeks, I think. Yeah, a couple of weeks. But Dragon Ball Z Kakarot.
Oh,
That
yeah.
if it doesn't show in my in the name, I'm a big fan of Dragon Ball. I'm a pretty
Yeah.
big fan of Dragon Ball, and uh, I know when they first announced this game, everyone was like, "Oh, look, it's another Dragon Ball Z game. Oh, it's the same story, yada yada yada." And
Mhm.
I was like, you know what? You're right. Like, I don't need to pick this up day one. This is, it's just another anime game. But over the past couple of months, they've been showing off a little bit more. They've been showing some gameplay. Some of the things I don't really care about, like some of the side quests and stuff like that. But they did show off that, even though the game is called Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, you are playing as other, Z fighters.
Mhm.
And it's sort of like an open, it's not open world, but like an open
Yeah.
sandbox type of game.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I feel like this game is a 3D version of Legacy of Goku. If you play that on the Game Boy Advance,
Briefly, yeah.
yeah. So it's gonna show like the high points of the Dragon Ball Z saga, um, and I'm not too much of a big fan of like arena fighters, but what I like about this is that it's not a competitive arena fighter. It's just like it's its own standalone like single player game. So
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of Dragon Ball as well, and I am sort of interested in it. I do get worried about the combat and that type of thing because, like you, I'm not a fan of arena fighters at all, like in almost any capacity.
Yeah,
But and it seems like this is sort of taking elements of that, but I think it could be interesting because I think the game physically like looks cool.
looks
Like the
really good.
yeah, like the I love the art style that they went with, kind of mimicking the anime itself and with the it's like cell shaded sort of, right?
Sort of, yeah. So I mean, it's along the lines of how Dragon Ball Fighters, how that looks.
Yeah.
I feel like Fighters maybe a little bit. No, Fighters is more cell shaded.
Okay.
I think this one took sort of more of like a 3D aspect since it's that arena fighter, but it still looks really good.
Yeah. And it's gonna focus on like the highlights of really the entire Z saga for
Hmm.
Goku,
Yep.
which is pretty ambitious because it's pretty long, but it does make you wonder what I don't want to get too far in the weeds here, but like it does make you wonder like what they're gonna do in like the beginning of the Android saga when Goku is like not even in it, really.
Well, yeah, they like I said, you can play. You will be playing as other characters in this
Oh,
game.
sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, because
Uh,
there's a couple of important parts in Dragon Ball Z where Goku isn't like the main point, which I'm happy about. Um, like I think like what I'm really looking forward to is like the Cell Saga with fighting Cell and everything
oh
as
yeah,
Gohan. Like
definitely.
that, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be recreating a lot of those things, and I wonder like where do you even go from there? Do you make a Dragon Ball game? Do you make a Super game? Like,
I feel Super. I feel like Super is the next like lean in. If this does well, if it's successful, I could definitely see them doing the Super route
I
because I
do
feel like
want.
Super has at this point has enough content to sort of you could do another game like this.
I yeah. I mean, I wonder if I wonder why they don't go to Dragon Ball like the original Dragon Ball very much.
It's my honest opinion. I feel like it's not as popular. So in their eyes, they're looking at like merchandising. They're looking at like what's relevant, like with the. I mean, it's not saying that Dragon Ball Z isn't relevant right now, but like I feel like that was a good place to start, and for them to like sort of get grounds on like, hey, people are really liking this, then let's go ahead and bust out the Dragon Ball Super, make the
Yeah.
sequel as Super. I would have enjoyed a starting off with the Dragon Ball because I feel like not a lot of people really have gone through Dragon Ball like that, but I feel like
Yeah.
the writing was different.
Yeah, it was different, and I feel like a lot of people actually say like it's the best version of like this franchise, especially because it got to the roots of like a martial arts adventure
Yeah.
as opposed to like sci-fi fights all the time.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like more and more as Dragon Ball Z and then eventually Dragon Ball Super came along. Like you're right. Yeah, it's sort of gotten, and I think that's a lot of anime though. A lot of anime will, at least shonen, will sort of amp up and ramp up further as it goes along.
yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, I think I might check that game out as well. Oh, by the way, before we move on, who's doing it? Do we know the developer, right? Like,
The same people that made the Ninja Storm games.
oh, okay. Well, at least we know if the game happens to suck, it will look great.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
I mean, there's a couple of other games that I
We
guess
got
we
we got
could
Final
sort of,
Fantasy.
yeah, Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yeah.
That's gonna be another big one. How do you feel about it?
I'm not a Final Fantasy VII guy. Like I'm not like a hardcore dude for that game. It's cool. I like it. It's fine. I fucking hate Barrett, but I think the game is cool. I really genuinely hate. And we'll probably talk. Oh yeah, we did talk about
Yeah,
that on this show. And I hate it. But like other than that, like everything else looks fine. The game looks graphically great, and the combat system actually looks engaging, to the point where like I know I would probably want to play it. It looks like an evolved version of like what you think Final Fantasy would be at this point, um,
Mm-hmm.
which is cool. They still have integrated like the ATB stuff, but it's not turn based in the same way that the old one was, where you're just like really static on the screen. You can move around, things like that. So that's nice. Um, but my main interest in this lies with where they're going to end, because this game is not going to be the complete 7 experience, right? Like it's going to be, they're going to start in the beginning and then end at a certain point before like the actual original 7 ended, because it's supposed to be in chunks.
Yeah.
So we're not going to, yeah. And I'm so curious like what they do and how many people are going to be pissed when they find out that like,
I
oh my God, we haven't even left Midgar yet.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be the case, actually.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's gonna end. What is that, like the end of disc one?
It's like, yeah, barely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like that's gonna upset people, but hopefully the gameplay will sort of outshine that, and I'm hoping that they add. I'm hoping that they add like a little bit more to it, because it's not like this is. I feel like they chose the word remake instead of saying remaster for a reason.
Oh, right.
I dare say, and this is like a weird like hot take, but I wouldn't be surprised if they don't kill Aerith.
No. There's no way they don't. There's no way.
I feel like what they'll do is that scene will play out how like people are gonna expect it, but something's gonna happen. It's gonna go another way.
I would love to see that. I would love to see that. There's no, we can put that on record right now. I am not convinced that's gonna happen. That is a bold choice though. That is
It
a
is,
bold choice.
but here's the thing: I love it.
I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah. I'm so well. Let's talk about Ori and the Will of the Wisps. What do you feel about that?
I wish that they didn't have these goddamn escape sequences in the sequel, but they do. I did not love them in the Blind Forest, but it looks like they're back, and I'm just like, ugh, okay, fine. But it looks good though. I mean, other than that, it looks really really cool. It looks like more Ori, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't. But not necessarily in a bad way. That's not like a disparaging comment. That's Ori and the Blind Forest is fantastic. Obviously, I didn't talk about it during Game of the Year because of our rules that we put in place, no ports. But I think I'll try. I am definitely gonna try to play this like close to release. Like maybe I'll try to get on PC or something. But I'm interested. It looks like they've expanded with how combat is going to work in the game. Like
Mm-hmm.
the Blind Forest was not combat focused at all. The entire point of the game was to get to point A to point B and through your enemies by like using their powers against them to maneuver yourself around the environment and platform more effectively. Here in Will of the Wisps, they're actually focused more on combat, and so I wonder what that looks like. In the last trailer for the Game Awards, you saw a little bit of that. It looks like you have a few new abilities to utilize to actually just face your enemies head on. And I'm curious how that runs up against the level design, like if that will suffer at all, because they're thinking like, okay, well instead of like traversal, they're going to be thinking of like killing things, and so I wonder like how that is affected. But I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah. Um. All right. So I do want to shout this game out. Animal Crossing.
Yeah,
That's
Animal
gonna
Crossing.
be. Yeah. That's gonna be. I feel like Animal Crossing is gonna be the game that it's gonna take up a lot of time for me.
Yeah,
I am not ashamed to say that I will be picking up Animal Crossing day one, and I'm gonna put in a lot of time into it.
there's zero shame to be had with that, sir. Like that is a legitimate franchise with like completely valid reasons to be addicted. Like it's the perfect pickup for 20 minutes and play game, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you can play it for longer. But
And that's like a time sink. Like I've had days where I was playing like New Leaf, and I'm like, all right, I could play this for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Wait, it's been like 4 hours. What am I doing?
yeah, yeah. And it's been a while. It's been a while. New Leaf came out in what, 13 or 14 maybe?
Yeah.
Something like that. And it will have been about half a decade, over half a decade since the last one, and like the last new entry for
Mhm.
Animal Crossing, not counting the Pocket World or whatever. But yeah, like I'm looking forward to it though. The concept of the desert island is cool, and Tom Nook is still there, still being a bastard.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think this is gonna be a. I feel like you want to start doing like well, I mean, there's a couple games we could talk about, but I feel like with Animal Crossing, that's gonna be like a solid game for Nintendo.
Yes.
It's gonna be really solid. Like I know they're gonna move a lot of units of Animal Crossing.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
like when you sort of like I'm like looking at a list of like games that are coming out this year, and I don't know. Like I think that's the biggest one for Nintendo that's been announced.
That's assuming that Breath of the Wild 2 doesn't release.
You think that's gonna be this year?
I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be this year, honestly. Or I don't. I think that might be a 2021 title. It's possible. Um, the optimist in me hopes that that's a holiday 2020 game. That's the optimist, but
Yeah.
I'm not convinced yet. Because I think when they released that trailer, I don't know. I don't even remember when last year they released it, but it very much felt like we just started working on this.
No, wasn't that game of the that was Game Awards
Of 2018?
2018, I think. Was it?
Are you serious?
I think so.
Huh.
I think that was like one of their like big reveals.
Huh. I thought that might have been like a.
Or was that E3?
I think that seems like it was the E3. That seems like it was E3. We could definitely find out though. Let's see. I would say, why can't we find this trailer?
Well, while you're looking that up real quick, I also will shout out
That was E3.
It was E3? Okay.
Yeah.
I want to shout out Dying Light 2.
Oh yeah.
So me and you have like a really like good history with that game.
Yes, we do.
That Dying Light 1 could be played through co-op, and I want to say we played like we pumped in a lot of time in that game.
We did. We played the whole thing.
Yeah, we played the whole game, and then we also played we played the big expansion. I'm not sure if we did any of like the side expansions.
Right. Well, we did. Yeah, the following is what we did. Right. I think that's what it was called. And the one with the farm and everything. And we did a lot of the side quests.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really great game. Like I wasn't expecting it to be that good. I kind of picked it up off the whim of like you and a couple other people who were like, "Hey, this is super solid, like a parkour first-person zombie game. It's the mix of genre you would not expect, and much less be good, but it actually is." And they seem like what the main differences here? Like, what's the main hook? I haven't paid too much attention to like the new
It's
stuff.
more or less that they've refined the parkour elements. A lot of that looks really smooth. Like, granted, in Dying Light, it was already really smooth, but this one they're talking about it being better. And then just like I think just like enemy AI should be better. I think new weapons and stuff like that. So it's more or less just building on top of what was already a great game.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, which is exciting on its own because we love the first one. So keep that co-op in there, man. Keep that co-op in there.
Any other games you want to shout out?
I think we hit the major ones for now. Yeah, because I think that probably rolls right into like console stuff because we're literally not get. Oh, yeah, we could. Do you want to talk about the Avengers game?
Yeah. Are we in that?
I mean, it exists. it's a game
It exists.
that
What I'm hoping for this game is I'm hoping this game turns out how Star Wars turned out for the game.
mm, yeah,
How
yeah.
like when we first saw the stuff for this Star Wars game that came out last year, it just looked whatever. It didn't look too impressive. But once the game came out, it hit the right notes for a lot of people. So I'm hoping that's what happens with this one. I'm hoping that the story really like saves this one. The gameplay sort of looks really simple, so I think that might mess it up a little bit. But yeah, that's all. I really don't have too much to say about this Avengers game.
Yeah, same here. It looks awfully generic to me.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to. I still have to play. I still have to play Resident Evil 2, the one that released in 2019. But once I do, I'm sure I'm gonna really enjoy it and look forward to Resident Evil 3, which will come out
Mm-hmm.
in April. That looks awesome. The new System Shock will also be out in
Yep.
2020, which looks cool. Um, I would also say Psychonauts 2 is still coming apparently.
It is. I feel like that's gonna be a game that does that have like a set date yet?
I don't think so.
I think that's gonna sort of like just drop, and hopefully it's not released like around games that are gonna like drown it out. That's the
Right,
one thing I
right.
worry about this game. Hopefully we get like an earlier release date, but if it's like anytime in the fall or um I definitely think the game is gonna get drowned out in the fall. Hopefully we get it sometime early.
Yeah, I think so. That 12 minutes game from E3 looks awesome. I think that was at E3, but it was remember it was the indie game with it was like it was from Annapurna, the publisher, and they were actually saying that um the so it's like it takes place over the course of 12 minutes, like in a particular scenario where it's like you and your wife and like somebody breaks into your house or something like that. I think you've seen this. It's like an isometric view,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, and you have to like relive the like 12 minutes, like over and over and over again until I guess you get it right, like the scenario right or something. It looks really fucking cool. It's a really awesome concept.
Hmm.
That you should definitely check out if you have not yet. Yakuza 7 releases in this year.
And you know what I'm really excited about this game is that I feel like it's changing up the mechanics. So
Yes.
that's something I'm actually like. I know some people are like, "Oh no, they changed it. I'm not gonna like it." No, like change things up a little bit. Like I feel like
Yeah.
breathing new life into a franchise. Like I'm sort of for that.
Yeah, you've gotten 6 games like with the same thing. Like, come on. Like at game 7, we're technically 8 if we're counting 0. Like,
Uh huh.
you're at game 8, at this point, and they want to do something different. Let them do the if Judgment is the spinoff, like the official spinoff, they do a sequel. Let that be the beat 'em up, and like let's do something new with the mainline series. Like where this is a new character, new system gameplay system. It's turn based now. For those who may not know, it used to be a beat 'em up game, and now it is going to be a turn based game. That still has the traditional Yakuza humor to it, and flair. Like that stuff is all there. If you've seen a gameplay video of Yakuza 7, you'll see that like it feels like Yakuza, just in a different aesthetic, essentially,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
At this point, I think we have gameplay of it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, we definitely do.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look
Yeah,
that up, and
yeah,
that'll be showing on the screen for our YouTube listeners. And because I mean, last I've like talked about this game, and last I've heard about the game, I know people were sort of like questioning uh, like how it was gonna play, which I know we've gotten like cinematic trailers, but hopefully I can find some like actual gameplay trailers.
yeah. I can send some to you because I've seen them.
Okay, cool.
They've done like 10, 15-minute reveals of like just gameplay. Um,
Here's my question: did it end up looking like what that April Fool's joke was a couple years ago?
I mean, yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. Like aesthetically, it looks just like that.
Okay, because that was my whole thing when I saw that, and then I heard that it was going to be turn based. I was like I guess this wasn't really an April Fool's joke. I guess the April Fool's joke was the April Fool's joke.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much,
Yeah.
pretty much. But I think people should give it a shot, especially because it's different. Like, you know, but No More Heroes 3, if you're into that, that's
Mm-hmm.
out. Doom Eternal, it will be out. That got delayed last year. Um, and then Halo, the new Halo Infinite game will be out. I'm very curious what this looks like because Microsoft has been so mum on what this game actually is, like
Mm-hmm.
what it entails. Like I just want to know what the hell it is at this point and what they are doing to revitalize Halo. Like anytime 343 has talked about like, you know, oh, we're redoing everything Halo related, we're going back to basics, yada yada. Like I would love that idea, but I just want to know what that means. Like, are we going back to Halo Combat Evolved basics? Or are we talking like Halo 2 or 3? Like, those are different games. So I want to know, like, what are we talking about on the spectrum there?
I think I think what they mean is more or less on like what the spectacle is, like what we're going against. I feel like they shouldn't devolve the game. As in like there's a lot of like quality of life changes that they've added over the years that I hope they keep. Um, and I don't think it's something that I can really see them taking away from the franchise.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would hope not. I would hope not.
Well, I want to sort of segue into next gen
Yes, let's do that.
with us talking about Halo Infinite. That's going to be a launch title for the Xbox Series X. Let's go ahead and talk about the Series X. Like, the biggest thing right now online is, oh, the systems, it looks ugly. It looks like a refrigerator. It looks like, I've seen so many things. But at the end of the day, I feel that with how powerful the system's supposed to be and how I'm sure Microsoft doesn't want a repeat of the Xbox 360,
Right.
give me hardware that is powerful, that won't overheat, that has sustainability, that I won't feel bad being a day one adopter, because I know that's the biggest thing for a lot of people. A lot of people are like, I'll wait for the bugs to get taken out, or I'll wait for like the revamped console. I'm not that type of consumer. I'm a bleeding edge type of person, so uh I just want it to work.
Yeah, which I don't think that we're in any danger of that not happening.
Exactly. I feel like they've taken the right steps and they've made the mistakes in the past where they're not going to repeat them.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk price point. Do you think that they will be aggressive with the pricing because of the mistakes they made in the past?
I
Or
think yeah, yes. I mean, I think the answer to that is yes. My hope is that it comes out at $400. I don't think realistically that's going to happen, and I say that because of what we know with the specs.
mm-hmm.
These consoles are supposed to be very, very powerful by the time that they release in the holiday 2020. I don't think that's going to change a whole lot. I don't think they're going to go higher than 500. They're going to be somewhere maybe in.
Yeah,
I,
500
yeah,
is max. I feel like
yeah,
500 is realistic.
yeah.
Trying to be like hopeful, 400.
Yeah, that's me being hopeful. That's the hope. 400 is a sweet spot for a new console for me. I'm like, okay, 400, I'll day one that instantly, like
Mm-hmm.
whatever. 500 is like, I'll still day one, but I'm gonna hurt. Like it's gonna be like, I need this? I'm gonna ask that question about 5 times, like before I actually pull the trigger.
I what I see happening. I see there's already rumors that there will be multiple SKUs. So
Exactly.
I see the $400 version being that one that won't have like the optical drive. That's gonna be the one that's a little bit powered down.
I would go so far as to say maybe 350 for that one. I don't think $100 will be seen as enough of a drop.
Mm, Yeah,
I don't
that's
think
fair. That's fair
I don't think
enough.
I don't think it hits 300, but I think 350 will be enough for for people to go like, oh, okay, I'll consider that
And
350 and 500.
350 is a point where right now Microsoft, they just want to sell systems. They
Exactly.
want people. They want people in the ecosystem. So I think that's fair enough. I think 350 is fair. I feel 500 is going to be the one that you really want, and the one that was sort of like, 500. I feel like that's that price point where I'm expecting to pay at least 500.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
At least. That's yeah, including games. You could tack on probably an extra 100 for games. I guess we'll see potentially, especially with these cross-gen titles. I guess we'll see maybe $70 games, maybe.
I wouldn't be
Um,
surprised. Yeah.
yeah.
Now, what I love about Xbox is that I'm not too worried about the price of games. You want to know why?
Why is that?
Because I feel like with the Xbox, I'll be getting the Xbox for, their exclusives. And with Microsoft, they have a little service called Game Pass. So when it comes down to playing Halo Infinite, when it comes down to playing any of these other first party games, that's all included. And I paid for the Game Pass Ultimate, so that includes the games. That also includes Xbox Live.
Yeah.
So all of that in one package with the system, I'm happy. I feel like I'm happy with my purchase at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Um,
I can see that.
and I feel that I guess we can sort of segue into PlayStation. PlayStation is, the next up. They, we have the PlayStation 5 being released around the same time in the holiday 2020, and I feel like Sony is in a good place. Of course, they clearly won this generation.
Yeah.
But do you think that cockiness and not, them not willing to sort of, push the envelope? I feel like that's gonna hurt them at the
Yeah,
beginning
I
of
mean,
this generation.
you sort of see it with the crossplay stuff from last gen, right? Or
Yeah,
current gen. They were unwilling to play ball on a lot of that stuff, whereas Nintendo or Microsoft were kind of seen as more of the good guys in that scenario and going like, hey, you guys, we don't have much of a problem with that. And that makes sense. Neither of them are the market leader. They don't have to, but the stakes are less for them, to do that. And it's very possible that like they could be gaining hubris a la the PS3 days, the Ken Kutaragi days. So like I or the Kaz Hirai days, I should say, more accurately. So yeah, it's definitely possible that is going to occur. Um, and I feel like again we're starting to see the beginning of that. So
yeah.
yeah, they could come out with this system, and apparently again they're similar in spec to the Xbox. Apparently, like the higher end version.
Hmm.
I I don't think that they're going to make the mistake of pricing their console above $500.
Yeah,
Um,
no, that's not gonna happen.
I don't think it's yeah, yeah.
Do you think they will release at 400? Or do you see them being, I guess, in a spot where they could release this at 400 to sort of try and edge out Microsoft?
Mm. They would have to be really confident that they could sell those consoles at 400. I think it's way too powerful, to be honest. Like to do 400 and still and make money. Like I mean, you're not gonna make money on this like in the first year or two or maybe several anyway. But you'd be bleeding money at 400. You would have to be with how powerful these parts are. Um,
I think
I
if
don't know.
I think if they do that, I could see an increase in like the price of PlayStation Plus. I could see
I
them. I could see them like trying to add more value to PlayStation Plus by giving, maybe including PlayStation Now and like putting the two together.
right bundling. Yeah,
So I mean, I feel like that's a fair assumption that
I think so.
PlayStation 5 is gonna increase. Well, they like PlayStation 5 will show that they will also want to push the whole streaming service. I feel that streaming games, it's really early, and y'all already know how I feel about why is both of us. Well, I feel like there's if you listen to the show, I can appreciate that with certain things we do have different viewpoints, so you can sort of see both sides of everything. But like I'm all for the streaming future. I don't think that Sony is equipped right now to be competitive with that. I know right now I feel that with Project X Cloud, that's like the front runner right now
Right.
of game streaming. Of course, Google Stadia, they're out. I feel their downfall right now is not really knowing what they want to do and not really having a reason to pick up the service right now. The technology is there, but at the same time, the reason to actually invest into that technology isn't there. So I feel like the biggest hurdle is, of course, like bandwidth, having people being able to actually use the service. But then at the same time, why would I choose to buy a game on the service when I could just buy the game on a console? Like, I feel like they have to make the ease of everything really be appealing, because that's what won me over with things like Spotify, things like Netflix, just how easy it is to say, I feel like watching a movie, I feel like watching a TV show, I could just turn on the service, play it, and I'm good to go. And like I don't see Stadia really doing that right now. I feel like they put their foot into the marketplace, but they didn't have the substance behind it.
Yeah, I am very curious. One of the top things in 2020, I think, is going to be like games as a service, in just the service aspect of it, not necessarily like games as a service models, but like in terms of how we consume them, just in general. Like I think is one of the most fascinating aspects of 2020 that I'm looking forward to kind of seeing progress, and seeing what aspects like Stadia like bring. Like you mentioned Sony and what they could do with PlayStation Now or bundling those services together. I think Sony would be remiss to not do some sort of program like that. I know on record, I believe they've said that they don't have a plan to currently roll anything like that out, but I think that is very foolish. I think that is not forward thinking at all, and I think at some point they're going to be forced to do that. I think Game Pass is doing extremely well for Microsoft. They seem really happy with it. The numbers for their titles that they report seem like they're really pleased with the number of subscribers. So that's great. That's just more people funneling money into your base, through your service, and you get them hooked 3 months for $1. I was just at the movie theater the other day, and there was a big advertisement for Game Pass that came on. It was like, hey, 3 months for $1 for Game Pass. That gets people talking, and it goes like, oh, I wonder what that is. Let me Google it. And it's really smart of them.
And they're doing such a great job, because at this point I'm able to, I've had an interaction with like a cashier once where I was buying a Xbox Live, I guess like a currency card. I was buying it as a gift for someone, and like a regular cashier was like, oh, I just got my son the Game Pass thing, and he loves it. It's like the best thing that they've ever done. So having like just regular casual people know what the product is and stand behind it, that's a lot. That's saying a lot. That's doing a lot. And like I said, they're in the front running right now.
Absolutely.
Any other trends you really see going on in 2020?
Ooh, man. Okay, so we talked about the biggest one. So we obviously, we talked about the new consoles. Those are huge. Start of a generation is one of the biggest things. We talked about services. I think that is also huge. I'm a little bit curious to see kind of like where we are with battle royale games. I feel like right now we're still in the eye of that storm.
Yeah.
We've got Call of Duty Modern Warfare trying to implement their own. We've got a lot of games still trying to implement their version of this. Apex Legends seems to be still doing all right. Fortnite is clearly still doing fine. But as 2020 progresses, like, what does that landscape look like? Are we still trying to? Is that the hot genre still?
It is because it's making them the most money for, I'm not going to say the least amount of effort, but it's something that they don't have to they don't have to pump out content as consistently as like other games. Like they're not making a Fortnite every year. They're updating it. They're adding events, which, as much as I'm not gonna say I don't like Fortnite, but as much as like I'm like that's completely off my radar, what is on my radar is whenever they run events. This past month in December, they did the thing with Star Wars, having events that players can sort of sit back and watch how like the environment's changing. They did the thing where they saw like the Millennium Falcon, like in like a dogfight, and then eventually it lands. I think Jeff Keighley and J.J. Abrams like showed up as holograms, and they were talking, and they actually showed like a little preview of it was the Rise of
Yeah.
Skywalker.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So stuff like that is just really cool. Like you could not like the game, but you could still appreciate what it's doing for the medium. So I love how they did that. I love how they revamped the whole Fortnite 2.0. I thought that was genius last year. Seeing how they essentially what some games do in just regular like server updates, where the server goes down, you can't play the game for like a couple of hours. They took that, they sort of twisted that, where they essentially rebooted the game. Like they essentially destroyed the original island, wiped it out. You couldn't play the game, you couldn't log in. Their social media accounts were wiped. Like people were
Wow.
freaking out. Like this was an event. Um, you know, Teenagers and little kids were freaking out everywhere, and it did enough where like I saw it on on news outlets. People were talking about it. It's it's part of the culture, so you can't dismiss that. How long it stays relevant falls upon what the next big trend is,
Right.
what the next thing that gets everyone into gaming again. Because
Yeah.
I feel like Fortnite, as whatever you feel about Fortnite, whatever you feel about Apex, it's getting people to play video games again. It's getting people into it. It's getting people to it's the water cooler effect,
Yeah.
where you could at work talk about, hey, I did this, that, and the third on Apex last night.
Yeah. I mean, and that brings it to it tangentially related, but like, I mean, the whole games as a service model, like that is
Mm-hmm.
Fortnite. Like, I mean, not even so we could talk about Fortnite as a battle royale, but also it's significant as, and I think you're more speaking to its function as a service, like a live game
Exactly.
at all times. And I think games like Division, Destiny, Fortnite, whatever, like these games that tend to live on and you continue to play despite reaching quote unquote credits, or if they don't have credits, then you're just like kind of in an endless gameplay loop. I mean, that's how developers kind of keep their worlds alive, is to implement and it doesn't have to be like extreme marketing stunts like the Star Wars thing, but it can still be like, okay, we've got this game, we want our players to play this game for 3 years, and here's the roadmap, because that is becoming even more common as well. It's something that Anthem tried to implement last year, and it was unable to do because, well, the game just wasn't good. But it was the idea, the plan. These live games, I don't think are really going anywhere. And I would love to see what progression comes from that, just that idea. And I mean, how much deviation can you really take though, like from something like that? Because it's impossible to logistically have it so you're constantly getting contact,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I mean, I feel like you and I just talked about this like recently, with Destiny, right? Like you were talking about Season of Dawn, and I felt like every single time that you mentioned that game, it was always in the context of like, this is cool, but like this isn't the meat and potatoes of like my experience. Like I want more from this, um, And it's like it's impossible to give that to you. Is there a way to solve that problem? And in 2020, do developers search for the answer? I don't have the answer. I have no idea how you. I don't think that there is an answer. My answer is that I don't think there is a way.
You know what?
Um,
I feel like, for a game to take the crown as like, most played game, best game, or whatever, I feel like Fortnite had like they somewhat have it figured out, but I feel like the way they're figuring it out is piece by piece. I feel like Fortnite was one of those like, lightning in a bottle moments where like they had something, it struck, and they ran with it, and they, made the most out of it. And then after that, everyone started copying that. There was a rush to put out a battle royale. There was a rush to, put out, modes and games so that they could compete with us. Essentially, look at what Fortnite is right now, what Call of Duty was almost a decade ago. Call of Duty came out, that was what everyone was talking about. At
right.
some point, games that had nothing to do with being a first-person shooter tried out being a first-person shooter. People were at that point were sick of seeing shooters because it just for some reason didn't feel as like organic as Call of Duty. At the end of the day, it was always like, all right, this is cool, but Call of Duty just feels better. I feel like once someone figures out a good way of from the jump releasing things and like not trying to like piece together things on the fly, like they have a set plan and they stick to it, because I feel like all these games are doing that. Apex, Destiny, all the stuff right now, it feels like they are like at the moment trying to figure things out. They are seeing what other people like Fortnite are doing, and then they're adapting it. Look at what Fortnite did with the whole battle pass thing.
Right.
Everyone has the battle pass now.
Everybody has a battle pass.
So
Fucking Call of Duty has a battle pass. That's insane to me. And the trade-off there is that like, okay, well, now you don't have to pay for DLC maps.
mm-hmm.
So I mean, like that's the immediate benefit to something like that.
I think
But it's like
games are definitely shifting towards the game as being a service,
services. Yeah,
and also just being like a live service. So
yeah. I mean, hey, do you want this? Do you want this gun right now? Well, give us $5 and you can have it right now, or you can play like 10 hours and get it that way. So, that could be dubious, but like that's the trade-off. Like that's the sacrifice that you make at this point.
At the same time, I feel that there's that aspect, but then there's also, we can't discredit, single player games. You can't discredit games that are like they're made differently. And this past year, 2019, look at what won our game of the year. Like it's something that's it's different. It's something that's not a shooter.
It's small. It's a small game.
It's a small game, and it did something different that had like a big impact. So, yeah. I think the industry still has space for that.
Yeah, I agree.
So, I feel like there's more I would want to predict, but I don't see it really happening in 2020. I see that, this is the beginning of a new generation, so we won't really see too much change right now. Like, we'll start seeing, like, the beginnings of changes, but we won't see, like, the full effect until maybe, like, 2022.
I'm curious of what you mean.
I always push for VR. VR is huge, but I feel like we're not in the technology isn't really there yet, and it's not accessible. I think it's more or less it's not accessible to a lot of people. I feel like if more people had the option to play things in VR and the technology was like really, really good where people aren't really getting sick all the time, or the visual fidelity isn't, trash. I feel like I feel like with these new consoles, we're inching towards that. But at the same time, we got to make sure that these VR headsets are more affordable. And we also have to get these developers behind making the VR games.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's the major key right there is, getting all of that to work at the same time. Like whenever I think about VR games, I think about playing Resident Evil 7 in VR. I played through the whole game in VR. And to me, playing it any other way, I don't want to do it.
Mm.
So
yeah, VR is definitely something that like I can't believe I didn't think of immediately on in 2020. I think it's huge. It'll be huge here, and I think potentially, and I 100% agree with you. Now that you've said that, like 2021, I think will be the biggest yet because we don't know if any of these consoles, like these new gen consoles, or next gen, will come with any sort of headsets, like
Exactly.
in the box, which I doubt. I
I
doubt that will
mm-mm.
happen.
Yeah.
But
I
but I
think I
would.
think Sony might have the leg up on that since they already have the PlayStation VR. They're still really like they're still advertising things for it. They're still developing games for it. So I think they have the leg up on potentially like leading the race on VR games. But it really falls down to once again this new headset. Is it something that's affordable? I feel like the technology is there because look at the Oculus Quest. You can have a VR experience without like the cameras, like the whole camera setup. And with the Quest, like you don't even need like a PC or a
You don't
console
need
at
a
that point.
PC. It's
So
room scale without a PC.
exactly, that's crazy. So the
Wireless.
technology is there. It's just it has to be accessible. It has to be affordable, and we have to get the developers behind it.
I don't see a reason why it wouldn't be affordable, honestly. Like I think it will be. I think the main reason why it seemed like a kind of a pipe dream before is because the consoles, the base consoles were from
Yeah.
like 2012, 2013. Like their technology was just like you just said, it's literally not capable of handling that kind of information. So that sort of technological information. So I think what they'll do with these new consoles, they will have the ability to do this. They will be ready for VRR, like variable refresh rate, like TVs and stuff, like things like that. They'll be capable of having um, so much to do that I don't even know if it's going to be a price thing. It might be. It maybe they do price it like way outside of
See,
our realm, but like I
it's
don't.
like it all connects together because if people aren't buying the hardware, developers won't be behind making the games for it.
Right.
So
You're right.
it comes full circle. But 2020 is definitely a year of like new beginnings. Shoot, who knows like if any other services pop up, if
Right. Right.
maybe Nintendo turns it around and we might see like the Switch Pro. I mean, the Switch has VR capabilities. It's really, really low res, but you
Right.
can turn your Switch into like a VR thing.
Yeah, they did that with Labo, right?
Yeah. So,
Like
they
the
tested it
robot.
with Labo. They slowly put out patches for the game so you could play Super Mario. Was it Super Mario Galaxy? Not Galaxy. Wow.
Odyssey.
Odyssey. There we go. You can play certain levels of Odyssey in VR, and then they push that envelope a little bit further with Breath of the Wild, being able to just straight up play the game in
Yeah.
VR. And then of
It,
course not VR isn't like you're looking through the eyes of Link, but more or less like you're it's pulled back and like you're sort of like in a 3D space where you see the world in
did
VR.
they do that with Mario Kart or no?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm
I
not
thought they
sure.
did, but I might have been mistaken. Okay.
But speaking about Mario Kart, and like I don't want to push this for to be too long, but my next prediction, and what I want to say is my final prediction for 2020 is the rise of mobile games. The
Hmm.
rise of I feel like there's gonna be a shift in what we see or and consider as a quote unquote mobile game. But I mean, at this point, in 2019, we saw Mario Kart being put on phones. We're seeing we're seeing like services like Apple Arcade giving you the option to play a bunch of really good indie games on your phone as a service. So for the longest, there were a couple indie games that I sort of looked up over time. And I was like, what, this looks cool. I'll wait for like a Steam sale. I'll wait for like some sort of sale. But it turns out they just ended up just putting it on Apple Arcade, and I was able to play it that way. Um, like what comes to mind, Sayonara Wild Hearts. I was able to play that way through Apple Arcade. I played Neocab. Neocab is another game that I feel like if I that's one of the games I feel like if I put more time into, I definitely would have shot it out on the Game of the Year episode, but
Yeah.
I just didn't have enough to really push forward for that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
But yeah, we're seeing like these phones that are coming out are really powerful. So,
Many computers.
basically, so just Call of Duty Mobile is Call of Duty experience on your phone. So,
On your phone.
I really want to see where what 2020 takes us, what we get out of mobile games. I think that's gonna be pretty big.
Yeah, definitely.
But what you got, Rodden? You got any hot takes, any predictions that you want to see in 2020?
I feel like we've hit almost everything that I was possibly gonna say. I'm really, again, Stadia is one I'm definitely keeping my eye on, especially when that officially releases. We talked about that, and I think just the services model in general is going to be something that is going to take the industry by storm, or continue to. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's quite popped yet. Like, I think people are just now kind of getting tuned into like Game Pass, and the advantages of that. Like, I feel like most of 2019, it felt like a crescendo. It was
Mm-hmm.
working towards a crescendo. And I think 2020 is maybe when that explodes, especially when Microsoft is out there um, talking in depth about their new console and the details about it. I would assume that comes before E3. I doubt they wait all the way till E3 to talk more about it.
Yeah, at this point, E3 is just a consumer show. Like, it's a place for gamers to connect. It's not really a thing, and that's not really a place anymore for these companies to really show off the hardware and the games anymore. As at least as an aspect of what E3 used to be. I feel like it's
Well,
night and day.
I was actually saying it because of not even that reason, just the fact that like that's way too close to the holiday, in my opinion, to just show off your console for the first time. And I think
Mm.
E3 is a good place to let your titles breathe for the first time.
Yeah, it's a good place to let it out in the wild to see what people say as
Exactly.
first impressions. I
Exactly.
do agree. Yeah, I could see them maybe in April, March, April.
Yeah. Yeah.
Having
That's what I'm
another
thinking.
what do they call those, like Inside Xbox or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would predict that Sony. I'm betting that they're gonna do something in February like they did like 7 years ago or however
Mm-hmm.
long. And we'll hear about all that stuff. And I think they'll go into depth on everything. They'll reveal all the specs. Probably show up a few games, and then I'll probably be it until E3, and then that's when we probably get the blowout, and then the marketing run will be from then to holiday. That's usually how it goes. I don't see any reason why it would be different in this scenario. Just what we've all heard. So yeah, I mean, this year is going to be marked by new consoles and services. I think that's going to be those two things are the biggest aspects. Game wise, I guess we'll just have to see. We're not getting we're getting some good titles. Like, let me not act like we aren't. We are definitely getting some good games this year, but I think the big salvo stuff is not even like game related. I think it's all around games in the industry.
Yeah. So 2020, I'm excited. New
Yeah.
year, new decade,
Yeah.
new things on should I play that, new formats. Like, I'm
Yeah.
really excited. Once again, I guess we could start wrapping things up. I Viewers, you guys, trying to figure out where to point. There you go. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. Really, you know, I love hearing like feedback from you guys, but like people really they really fuck with us, and I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you everyone. The best way to support us is to drop a review or a rating
Mm-hmm.
on iTunes. iTunes helps a lot. So definitely do that. If you don't have that, try Spotify, anywhere that you're listening to us. Just give us a like if you like us. Like, just drop us a 5-star rating, or leave us a comment. Yeah.
And then sharing our posts that helps too. Over the holiday, I was in the store, like buying something, and like just the conversation of podcast came up, and I was like, oh yeah, I run a podcast called Should I Play That? And they're like, oh wait, hold on, I've heard of that before. I think I've seen that like on my timeline. I was like, yo, what? Like, you've heard? And this is like, I wasn't expecting it at all. He was, you know, he I think he saw something about it on like on Instagram, on like someone shouting us out or saying something about it, and I was like, you know what, that's dope. I'm happy. That was my Christmas gift.
Wow, that's a Christmas gift to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt really good. But yeah, like we really appreciate you guys. In the comments, let's hear what, you know, do you agree with what we feel about 2020? Were there games that we sort of omitted on our list of things to look out for? Let's talk in the comments. Let's have some conversations. But with that, we're gonna sort of end it off for the year. This is like a smaller episode. You know, we'll be back to the normal. You know, what we've been playing. I want to do more topics. So if you guys in the comments, if you guys want to hear us talk about, you know, anything, let's shout it out in the comments. Say something.
Yeah, let's do it.
I feel like our best episodes are episodes when we have a topic and like we're able to like dive into it.
Yeah, we're just at each other's throats constantly.
I want to say at each other's
I'm
throats.
kidding. I'm joking. Yeah.
But and then also for guests, still having some people trying to line up some guests, so we're gonna have that in the works. But I'm excited for this year. I really am.
Very excited.
All right, so with that, we're gonna sign up for another show. Thank you for tuning in, and guys, play more video games, have fun, live life, and stay beastly. Peace.